we're out here in Ladonia, Texas at a beautiful French Victorian house. We're gonna get started on a few different projects here. First one is this beautiful French door that we are gonna do a few different things to, so stay tuned. Hey guys, good morning. I am out here at a beautiful property that's over 120 years old. Ever since the homeowners acquired this property a few months back, it has been renovation project after another. I'm excited. I get to be a part of some of those. I'm excited too because I get to share them with you guys. So let's take a moment and check out the detailing in this beautiful house and then get into what projects we have. Alrighty guys, so project number one is this beautiful door. Of course, in a gorgeous house like this, you've got to have a beautiful door. Now, the homeowners, again, have found this door. They're going to repurpose it. It did not originally come into this space, so there's a few things that we've got to do before we put it in there. I want you to also pay attention to detailing. When purchasing a door or trying to replace a door, you have to ask yourself some very important questions. In the long run, they're going to save you time, effort, and quite possibly a lot of money, because you might be able to make some modifications, but other modifications might not work in the space that you're trying to put this door. So pay attention to the size of the door, where the doorknob is, and also the hinges. So we'll get into more of that in just a second. Let's go check out this beautiful space. Alrighty, let's take a look. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Melissa, how you doing?
Pretty good. Just came to check out the bathroom, show everybody where this door is going to be going.
Yep, this is the place.
This is the hole that we're going to be putting the door in, you guys.
So we have a small problem.
We do. Tell me.
Take a look at this. Can you see this on camera?
I can.
We have a 26-inch wide opening, which means it's been framed for a 24-inch door.
And our door is?
The door itself is 26 inches.
So
we have a problem. There's a couple things we can do. We have a choice. We can either decide to open up this opening a little bit wider to accommodate the door, or we can choose to cut the door down. Most cases, we prefer not to cut the door down, unless for some reason we can't do this. Based on what I was just looking at before you got here, it looks like when the framers were here, they actually closed this in from what it used to be. So we may have some room here to play with. So we'll take a look at this and see it, and I'll let you know for sure.
Deal.
Okay, so
Basics here.
3 different sanders. Square orbital, round orbital, belt sander. Okay. For the most part, you're looking at basically orbital versus belt as far as like the 2 basic kinds. If you're needing to really sand down a lot of material and you're covering more ground, belt sanders are the way to go, because they'll hog a lot of wood off of the whatever it is you're sanding. For finished work like this, not always a good idea, because they can do too much off. Okay. Yeah. Now you can put a finer grit sandpaper on this and get more work done faster. You just have to be more careful what you're doing. If you're not a seasoned pro, you've not done this before, probably not the best tool to work with.
Okay.
You're probably better off one of these orbital sanders, or vibrating sander for the most part. Your typical vibrating sander, the sander itself vibrates, which causes a sanding action. An orbital vibrating sander, the sanding pad actually runs in orbital patterns, so they're like little small circles. So if you ever sand one of these guys too hard on a floor or on a piece of wood, sometimes you'll see little small circles. on the wood, that's the pattern that it's actually creating. Yeah, Jersey, New York, whatever. Now, this is a 40 grit sandpaper, which is rough. So we use this very carefully on this door because it's a lot.
I got a heavy hand.
Yeah, I had 40 and I had 150. They didn't have a 60 or an 80.
Now, as you guys can see, there is some hardware that is on this door. Be sure to go ahead and remove all of the hardware before you start your project. As you can see, it's getting in the way right now, so I'm gonna have to take a break, get this out of here, and we'll get back to finishing this door. Beautiful. And out of the way. All right, guys, we're sitting over here with Patrick. Now, I did make a comment earlier. I said there's a few things that you want to consider before jumping into a project like this. So, Patrick, what are some of those questions you want to ask yourself?
So, as we said before, and we walk to the bathroom, door size is very, very, very important. You need to make sure if you are somebody who's looking to source a door, whether it be salvage, whether it be a secondhand store, a thrift store, wherever, but it's not a new door, and more than likely it's not a pre-hung door. It's probably just the door slab. So from what you've seen earlier and watching most of the videos, you saw the door slab that was being sanded and being worked on. That's just the slab. What you saw inside the bathroom was a rough opening with no door jam, nothing else in there. So more than likely what you're going to be buying is going to be just a slab. You have to take into consideration the size of the opening, the fact that you don't have a jam. There's things that have to be built in place in order to make this work. So, so as I said, door size is important. That's a big one. You want to make sure that the door size width-wise is correct. Like in our case, this door is a little bit too big, but you also want to make sure door height-wise is correct as well. So standard door being a 6'8", large door in this case
now
being
explain
an 8'0".
Explain the 6'8", because I know I was one of those that questioned it as well. So break it down just a little. General statement, kind of the way you did before when you broke it down to what is 2, what is 10, what is 0. How does that start?
Right. So a 6'8" door, which is a standard regular residential door, really what that means is 6 foot 8 inches or 80 inches. So your typical residential house door is an 80-inch door. The rough opening for an 80-inch door has to be 82 inches or 82.5 inches tall.
Okay.
Okay. So in our case with your door,
Yes.
this is an 8'0" door. So it's an 8-foot tall door, which is a really big door. You don't normally see this in a lot of residential houses except for higher end stuff, which this house is. So it's a lot more wood to sand, a lot more work to do.
A lot more work.
Generally means one more hinge than you would normally have for a regular door. Most door hinges you have 2. This one you have 3. Actually, I'm sorry, most you have 3. This one you would have 4.
Oh, okay.
So again, depends on what the door is made of and so on. But there's generally one more hinge on a large door versus a small door. So besides that, we also want to look at things like hinge placement and door swing. So if you're buying a door slab from a wholesaler, from wherever it's coming from, is it going to match what in the opening that you're going to be putting it into? So if the opening that you're putting it into already has a door jamb in there and there were already hinges there before, then you have to be really concerned about the door swing and where the hinge placement is, because the new door coming in has to match. In our case, where there is no jamb in place, it's just a rough opening, then all we care about is what the homeowner says is, how do you want this door to swing? Do you want it to swing in? Do you want it to swing out? If you want it to swing in, do you want it to swing in left, or do you want it to swing right? So that all has to do with the hinge placement on the door. Now, this door already has hinge mortises cut out for it. So if these don't work, what we're going to do, we're going to have to fill them and then re-chisel out or recut out hinge placements for these. More than likely, I'd say probably 100% of the time, if there had been a door jamb in place before, this would not line up. It rarely ever lines up properly. So more than likely on projects like this, when you're repurposing a door, redoing a door, you're more than likely going to end up having to redo the hinges because they're not generally going to line up.
And we're technically not, just because it didn't have a previous.
Correct. Yeah, so we're starting from scratch.
Okay.
So we're actually going to have to do everything from scratch. So as I was saying, width-wise, height-wise are both important. One of the considerations on height is a lot of these older doors, because they were probably owned by somebody or somebodies over time, they may have been cut already. So what may, to us, what may be an 8.0 door may actually be an inch shorter, a half inch shorter. It could be a half inch shorter on one side, an inch shorter on the other side, because they cut it on a home that had a bad foundation. So if you look at the bottom of the door or even the top of the door, it's a diagonal cut. So when you're going to a store or to a salvage yard or whatever, looking at these things, making sure you take that in consideration when you look at the doors is very, very important, because you may get home on a buy once cash only sale, get this door home, and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, it won't work.
Yeah.
Right. So just those are things to look at when it comes to size.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of things that you would not consider when you're just walking in thinking, I'm going for a door. This size, walk out. Nope. There's a lot of little details to make sure that you don't, to consider in the beginning, so you don't fumble in the end.
Correct.
Essentially.
Correct.
So, very cool.
Just like with hinge placement and so on, you also want to be concerned with door knob placement. Now, this particular door is an old school knob and action mechanism. So this has a fully mortised lock mechanism, which is cut into the side of the door. Most doors today is a 2 1/8 inch hole, set back 2 3/8 inches from the edge of the door, and whether it's interior or exterior door. And then there is the actual strike goes in the side. The strike is a fraction of the size of this. So if you were getting this door and you had said, well, I want to put a modern doorknob on here, this is a problem, because this has been mortised and cut out for this kind of a doorknob. So now, not that it can't be done, but we want to add a segment onto this whole thing about how to actually modify this door to take it back to a regular.
That is to come, you guys. So duly noted there.
Yeah, so we're waiting to find out what the homeowners decide they want to do with this. If they actually want to keep the old school door as is, or they want to put a more modern door on it. I think they're going to want to stick with this. So
we have a project coming up.
So that'll be a good thing.
Yes.
So doorknob placement is very, very big. Lastly, I think one of the things we want to make sure we consider is, what is the finished door supposed to look like? Now, in this case, this door had been, I won't call it a whitewash, but it had been color washed. And that's all being sanded off now.
Yeah.
But the question is what's going to be the finished product? Is this door going to be painted? If it's going to be painted, we're going to treat it a little bit differently than if we were going to stain it, because a stain or a stained product, in most cases, is a transparent or a semi-transparent product.
And you're going to see it all.
So we're going to see everything behind it. So like on that one corner, we've got a corner of that door, it's got a chip in it and there's a little piece missing. If we were simply going to paint this door, we might just go ahead and bond to that or fill that in, sand it down, turn it back into a perfect corner, and we're good. We just go ahead and we finish it, sand it, paint it, and we're done. But if we're going to stain it and we want that look to be more authentic and not, have an odd corner looking to it, then we may decide not to chip part of it away. We may decide to, we want to make sure we account for that and use a proper filler, whether we mix our own or whatever, and then deal with that so that when the door is all finished, we don't have an odd looking corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're still waiting on the homeowners to figure that out.
Yes.
Okay. Deal.
But that's most of the basic stuff that you want to consider. Like I said, just as I would advise anybody, don't just run out and say, oh my God, that door is beautiful, I want to use it in my house, and assume it's going to work. We've seen many doors that have been put in place where it may have been cut already and the door looks a little bit lopsided because the hinge side was cut. You normally don't want to cut the knob side because it throws all of everything off on your knobs. So hinge sides get cut, and then you see this door that looks kind of oddly shaped because the hinge side is like 2 inches more narrow than the knob side. So that's the kind of thing we want to stay away from because it doesn't look so good in the end. So, but I think in our case, I think we're going to be okay.
I think so too. So again, you guys, a lot of different things to consider. I am still learning all these different points along the way, but they're going to save us time in the end. So thank you, Patrick. Sure. Okay. So, alrighty guys, there's a lot of work to be done. So let's get back to it. Alrighty guys, so sanding on this door is almost complete. There's just the edges that I need to get to. We also have to talk to the homeowners because we're still in debates whether to paint this one white and match a door in the existing area, or whether we're going to pull some of the wood detailing back into this door and stain it. Alright, let's talk filler options here.
Yep, so we've got a problem here in the corner of our door. Looks like some wood at some point fell out and some may have come off either as a result of sanding or was just loose and got knocked loose. So we need to fill this in. There's a couple ways this can be done. There are stock fillers available that can be used. And these look kind of like Play-Doh, but this is what a filler looks like.
It's like makeup.
Yeah, and they're colored, normally colored based on a wood type like pine or oak or what have you. So this one is pine, which should more closely represent what's here. And if we were to put this on here on this corner, we can fill this in. So basically wood fillers are, there's not a whole lot of magic to it. It just needs to fill the gap, fill the void. And you'll have some that's going to fall off on the floor and they're going to have some little extra, but basically you want to get the void filled as best you can and realize that you're going to have to sand this afterwards, and the sanding is going to bring everything back to nice and square and flat again.
So this is literally like when you're filling the holes in the walls and whatnot before painting.
Similar to spackling or joint compounding the wall.
Okay.
So that's really kind of all there is to it.
Do I need to work it in here more, or is this good here?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, we just want to make sure that it fills the void. And I don't ever mind having a little bit sticking out because I know I'm going to sand it out. So if it shrinks when it dries a little bit, then you'll have a dent or a divot, which you don't want. You'd rather sand down so it's completely flat. So our other option is to make your own. So to make your own filler, there's a couple ways you can do it. One of the ways I do it is I will take some of the sawdust from some earlier sanded wood, you see here, and this can be mixed with, and again, there's several things you can mix this with, but I'm going to mix this with Type On 2.
Now you said earlier there's like Elmer's and everything else you can
Yeah,
use.
different people will use different glues, or some people maybe even use epoxy. It's really a matter of choice. And then I will even put just a tad drop of water on it because the water tends to help thin the glue out.
If I took a picture of my protein shake earlier, it would look identical to that.
Look just like that, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll mix this up a little bit. This works a lot better in a cup, but we have such a small area we're going to cover. We'll just do this here.
No, that looks almost identical to what we just had in the cabinet.
Yeah. And of course, both of these are stainable. So once we're done, this is a stainable product. So we'll take this.
Now when this dries, is it lighter or darker?
It depends on the medium that you're working with, like which glue you're working with. I have seen that with Type On 2, in some cases it comes out a little bit darker. If this were going to be a stain door, and this was going to be a darker stain door, I would tell you that's perfectly fine because you're not going to see it. It'll look more like a vein or some of the natural wood itself. If you were going to light stain it, you might want to look for something that's going to stay lighter so it doesn't stick out.
Now, one more question while we have everything out and we're doing this. Should we do the same thing to this bottom corner here?
Sure.
And just go ahead and pack it out extra?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me...
One last hassle. Doodle suits.
And again, I tell folks, don't sweat out. Don't sweat the crumbles and this stuff never looks that great when it first goes on. But once you sand it down, you're going to bring it back down to a nice square corner again. Okay. It'll look just fine. You can't, there's only so much you can do with this stuff when it first goes on.
And like you said, it's going to technically shrink up in a sense some. So I guess the uglier the better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in some cases, depending upon the size of the hole or the crack, you may have to actually do it twice. You may have to get the filler in the first time.
Yeah, I know this one was pretty ugly in here.
Let it dry, sand it, and then when if you have a little bit left over, just hit it one more time just to make sure you're filling everything.
Now, another question is, because you use 2 different solutions, is that something that could possibly separate through time, or is it similar
they should
in
dry out
property?
fine.
It's not okay.
Yeah, they'll dry out fine. Yeah, now color-wise, if you were going to stain, you wouldn't mix it because then you could have odd colors.
Okay.
But because we're going to be painting the store, we're not as worried about it. So let it all dry up and give it one last sanding, and then we should be good to go. As you can see, this stuff is not always the easiest to work with. That's why I say don't sweat trying to make it perfect the first time around. Because when you sand it, you can bring some of those corners back and you can bring some of the shape back to the wood that I had originally.
Alrighty guys, it's been an exciting week. There was plenty of work that's been done. This is just the first episode of a few more to come with this store and a few more other projects that are going to be taking place here at this beautiful house. Stay tuned to my YouTube story for a few more details. Let me know how you guys feel about this video. I'm going to have a ton down below in the description. If you guys have any comments, any questions, drop them below. Like, dislike. If you guys have not subscribed, do it now. Bye, y'all.